Negotiation is one of the most uncomfortable parts for a lot of people in life, but if you use this framework, it actually makes it a lot easier and understandable by both sides. Now, when we're negotiating, we want to make sure that we have a fair price. And we want to make sure that our supplier is making money, okay? And we want to make sure they want to do business with us, and we want to do business with them. But what is our number one priority? Remember that our number one priority is going to be quality. As we just talked about a little bit ago, if you don't have the best product, well, then you're not going to win. So not only having the best product, but making sure that it's always done properly and everything, and that it's always packaged properly. The inserts are always correct. The shipping, it's always on time. All this great stuff can be negotiated and built into how you build your contracts and deals with your supplier. So this is how we're going to go doing that. And obviously we're going to want a good price, but there's many other things, because who cares if you're making, $8 a product versus 10. I'd rather take 8 with no headaches and everything and never always like getting 5-star reviews because nothing is wrong than 10 and lots of headaches and missed times and out of stocks. Like, no, I'm going to go with the 8 in the quality, and that's going to allow me to scale and work on other parts of my business. So what does that lead us into? Well, we've already talked about earlier in the course, there's other factors to take into account other than price. There's MOQ. We'll teach you about that in a little bit. There's lead time, returns, inspections, stickering, and packaging. So this is going to be the process and the order that you would want to go about actually negotiating all of these things. So before we actually begin the negotiation process, you want to make sure that you've gotten the price from them, what they want, okay? And you've gotten the price in a tiered quantity, i.e. like 5,000, 3,000, and 1,000. By the way, always go for a higher quantity than you actually want to buy, even your lowest. So if there was, 5, 3, and 1, and you actually wanted to buy 500, and this was 1,000, 3,000, and 5,000, we're never going to ask for the actual amount we actually want to buy. Don't ask for an MOQ. If you haven't gotten that point already, or if we haven't mentioned it, you put yourself in a weaker position if you ask for MOQ, and we'll talk about that more in a little bit. But essentially, if you're asking for MOQ, you're asking for what's the bare minimum I can buy. Instead, we're going to overshoot, and then we'll be like, whatever. So before negotiating, we've asked for that tiered price, as we talked about there, so price, and then we're asking for their lead time at each one. Okay, so we're getting their terms. So we're figuring out, okay, where are they? Because now we can start to ask for what we want. And it's going to be a process where we're going to give and take. Then we're going to make sure that the stickering and the packaging, so these are all the things that we absolutely need to know, and we obviously need all of these things. So we get all of that out front. And of course, you're only negotiating with people that actually meet the product quality needs that you want after you've gotten the sample. Now this negotiation process is only with the people that have met all the needs, so we're not wasting our time negotiating with somebody who's got, bad quality. What we're going to do first, okay? We're going to negotiate the price first. Now why? Because we're going to give up on the price to them. Because most of the suppliers and what they're like going to go and report to their boss and all sorts of other stuff is going to be price. Because so many people are always focused on money. But there's so many things that affect money, like we talked about in ROI and lead time, that actually there's so many other factors in our business that matter than just price, okay? And if we have higher quality and less returns and everything, we end up selling more, and that makes up for the lack in price, and then we can charge higher, and then we may pay a little bit more, but we can charge more. And then all the, everything else, I'm not going to beat the dead horse. We've talked about this a lot of times. So we negotiate it. We've talked about how to go and find the true price on 1688. It might be even a little bit lower than there though. So what we do then is say, okay, well, that's about it. So you'll have your supplier. Let's say your supplier is, at 8, okay? So on 1688, it's $6 bills, and your supplier is saying it's 8, okay? So then essentially, and maybe the other supplier is saying it's, let's say the other supplier 2, the supplier 1 is saying it's 7, okay? Well, we're going to come in here and maybe we'll just lie. Maybe not lie, but we'll just pretend that that's our supplier, okay? So you let them know that you're looking at other suppliers like we already have, and we could just say, well, these other suppliers are here, and here. So essentially, we're going to reference our competitor's price and then ask, like, given that, what price can you do? Maybe you could ask them to match if it's like make or break, but I like to just say, here's the competitor. They're of similar quality. What can you do? Okay. So you're not asking for an exact price, because if you ask to match, now it's like you've just made a demand. You just say, hey, this is like, here are our options. Do you like have a better offer? And now they've decided on that price. You haven't forced them to come to you. You go to them on that. Kind of. It's just psychologically a little different. They're probably going to match it or come close. Then, if they can't match or come closer, you're going to ask why. There might be a good reason. They might, have like some very different quality actually, or some reason. Basically asking why is important, because now this reason is a negotiation point that you can use, okay? So we always want to ask why on everything. The more information that they give up, the more that we gain. And you don't typically want to give up too much information that is weak in a negotiation. So I try to keep things less and less, okay? That's why you don't say you're the boss, you say the purchasing manager. You don't say a lot, okay? Basically, you want to paint the best picture of yourself and that you're a great person to do business with, because you are. And then later, when we get this price moved down, we want to make sure later that the quality hasn't been changed from that sample that we got or what we're negotiating with them. Make sure the quality isn't compromised, because when we get a lower price and you really force down lower in price, you can. But when you pay for a price, you pay for it somewhere else, either service, relationship, or quality, lastly, and you never want to give up on the quality. So at the end, you'll see that actually the process that we use will assure that the quality isn't deteriorated at all. Yeah. Okay, so let's say that he was originally at 8 and the 1688 price was 6. And let's say they're saying at 7, and you asked why, and it's because they're focused on quality and whatnot. And, there's a legitimate reason why they can't go down to 6. Well, maybe now we say, okay, well, the people at 6 are still relative of same quality, but we like, dealing with you, and we think that we could have a good relationship going forward. Let's focus on lead time now, because we said that faster lead times means you have to float less inventory, and essentially your reorder. It just makes everything a lot easier. Watch a ROI and lead time video if you don't understand why. So essentially, okay, well, we could do 7 if you get that lead time lower. Now, we'll also be able to get the MOQ lower too in a little bit, and you'll see why. So we try to get that lead time lower. Just quickly going back now. So we said, okay, let's try to get the lower lead time. But let's say they can't lower the lead time. Well, now it's like, well, we need to get that $6 price because the other people are similar quality and you can't lower the lead time. So, well, they're either going to have to break on the price or the lead time. So that's a great scenario. But let's say, okay, they'll do the 7 and they'll lower the lead time. Well, now we have to put up less capital because we can reorder faster. And then that's great overall. Then you can add more products faster. And, as long as they've got good quality, it's great. You could even suggest, like, maybe you get them down to 7 and you're like, well, it's very profitable. And, I could even go back up to 750 or 8, their original price, but only if they really lower down that lead time. If you go to the ROI and lead time, you could see kind of the importance of that and calculate out. I mean, if you have really high margins, basically, the difference in the price doesn't make too much of a difference. Like, let's say we were selling this for $50, okay? It doesn't make too much of an impact on our business if we source it for 8 versus 6. If we're getting back 38 net or something, it's like, okay, well, it's very minimal difference. But if we could go from a 30-day lead time down to a 20, I would take that. That would be awesome, especially if it was a high volume unit. I would definitely take that. I like faster lead times for absolutely everything. So by doing that, and then here's the trick. If you know that they could have gone down lower. So in the future, you could just say, all right, well, let's actually increase the lead time again and go back to that price that you offered me originally. So you can always go, like, essentially see where their numbers are at. And then when they make an offer at some point in time, you can just say, oh, okay, well, like you said that before, so I know you can do that. So let's do that. So the more info we get out of them, the better. And we can see what their true lead times are. Now, let's say they can't, let's say that they say they can't do that. Like, let's say that we had gone for the 8 and the 6, and then they said $7. Oh, and we say, okay, $7, but we need to lower the lead time to 20 from 30. And they say, we can't do that. Well, then say, like, why can't you? And then essentially get the information of why they can't. Like, figure out in the supply chain why they can't lower this lead time. And even if you asked for 8 and then let's say it was at 8 and then there was the 6 and they gave you the $6, okay? Still ask, can you get the lead time lower? And then if they say, no, we can't, then you ask why. Always figure out like how their supply chain actually works, because now you're going to understand how your product works better. And guess what? You might find out that there's some bottlenecks in there that you could actually solve. Maybe this is simple as the packaging takes 3 weeks to get made and the product's only 2 weeks. So they're always waiting on packaging. You're like, well, could we just buy packaging and store it there, or store it at a warehouse or something? Like, can you figure this out? And then it's like, oh, well, yeah, if you just like float this little bit of inventory, we could actually increase your lead time. So figuring out where the bottlenecks are, you might find some really easy fixes to it. And then they might just say, well, we have other clients there. And then that's where you can go in and offer a little bit more money and say, well, like, what if we offer to pay more? Could you put us in front of the other clients? Well, now in their position, they're like, I already have business with these other people. I could just say production is busy and they'll still keep ordering from me. And I could sneak this one in first. And it's not like it's any more work, but I make more money. And they do that. So that's an option. Everybody has a price, okay? So by seeing where the bottlenecks are and, playing around with the pricing here, we can get the faster lead time and still get a lower price. It's kind of an art and a science. But yeah, find the bottleneck and solve it. So we are basically right now, we focused on like where are their price points and where is their production capability? Where are the bottlenecks? Now we want to focus on the quality. All right. So we're going to ask for a sample order first. So this is how you get a lower MOQ, because essentially we've done that, maybe 1,000. So, we've essentially gone out and did 1,000, 3,000, and 5,000, but we only want to order 500 units. Now what we're going to do is say, we need to test that you have good quality, because quality is our number one focus that we've talked about earlier. And essentially we need to see what is the consistency of your product, because, we're looking at you and other people, and how can we know that we can trust and buy a lot from you if we don't know if you have a consistent quality or quantity? Like if you have a 10% error rate, we're not going to buy 5,000 obviously. And we are focusing on quality. So we want to, do this small test order, and then our other orders will be larger, even if they're not. Once you get in the door with someone, it's standards go down a lot. So that's just kind of a negotiation tactic. And hopefully you could order more next time, assuming that you increase your sales and everything. But by getting that lower lead time and a lower MOQ, now we've vastly reduced that amount of dollars that we have to spend in the beginning. And we can see if this works or doesn't work faster. So we use the consistency of the quality as the straw man to see and get the lower MOQ to essentially get that MOQ down. You would still want to talk about the consistency of the quality, even if you're above the MOQ, just to say, prove the point that you are focused on quality. And then, because the next thing we're negotiating is inspections. So with this, we want to say that, okay, we'll pay the 30% upfront, but then there's the 70%, which is most people do for payment terms in China. But we're only going to pay that 70% after an inspection. And you get specific about the terms, okay? If there's any errors, they have to pay for it and get it fixed before you give them that 70%. And get specific about all of your requirements, okay? Packaging or whatnot. Like, get it out of how your product is going to look and be, and then what, maybe, I don't know. It's different for every product, so I can't really describe it. But like, how do you want your product to be and get to Amazon? And then you would want to have an inspection done. And then, okay, like these products need to match like this. Any ones that aren't like that, they have to be redone or repackaged. And essentially, if there's any errors, that the supplier has to pay for it, because you're focused on quality. And we've given up maybe by paying higher price, but by paying that higher price, we want this quality and to not have any headaches. So since we're focusing on quality and we do this for the inspection, like essentially, how are they going to say no? Unless if they do say no, then it's like, well, you don't have good quality, so we don't want to do business with you. And that's a good thing. So they should, assuming that they do this. Here's why we do this. Let's say we really rail down the price, okay? So we're not as profitable to them. So why are they really going to focus on telling their employees to double check the quality and that everything is properly done? Well, they're probably not going to as much, especially if there's any errors, like then it's just on us. By essentially paying more, we instead shift the price onto them if they have any quality errors. So we pay them more money up front, okay? But then now we save money on the back because we've shifted all of the cost of quality, inspection, and making sure that everything's consistent to their end. Now they're putting all the time and resources up front, so we never have to deal with the issues down low. And this is what the whole point of the business is that you get a product, you get it out there, and you don't have to do anything with it then. You do all the work up front, and then now you can have trust in your business versus always filling holes in the leaky bucket. So I know this is getting long, but then the last thing that we say is, okay, that they'll agree to this. And then, and then the last thing you ask for is, okay, well, so if there are returns for defective reasons, we want to get that price back on our next order. Or you give us additional units to replace the defective ones that were returned for a defective reason, and we can give them the Amazon sales report data directly so that there's no issue about that. And then if we've gotten this far with them, we've given up on the initial price, but we got lower lead times, and then they're like, yeah, of course we're going to have good quality. If they won't give us back returns that are defective, then we say, well, you told us that you had good quality. Why? And we focus on quality. So why would we go with you if you won't reimburse us or give us new products for defective ones? I mean, there shouldn't even be any. So this isn't even, so they have to give you this, basically. So by using this in this whole way, I think that this is the best way to negotiate. I'm sure there's other ways. So if you guys have better tips, techniques, or critiques for negotiating in this, maybe a better order, leave them down below. But this is the way that I use and think that is the best. So yeah, just summary quick. Get the price, lead time, and stickering up front in the packaging. And then we negotiate on price and use comparison. Give up on them, okay? Let them win at first, and then now it's death by 1,000 needles on the way down to get the thing that we care about, because we care about quality, because then we can charge the higher price. We can give more price. Everybody saves and wins overall by doing it this way, whereas if you go for the price first, you all pay in the end. All right, on to the next video.